Don't scroll, don't call, don't distract, just sit and breathe. Because underneath that silence lies power, the kind you can't fake, the kind that doesn't depend on what others think. See, when you reconnect with yourself, you begin to generate your own validation. You don't need to prove anything because your presence speaks for you. Your self-worth stops being a currency and becomes a truth. That's why stillness feels uncomfortable at first. It's pure withdrawal. You're breaking the habit of needing to be seen. You're unlearning the addiction to approval. You're coming home. Let me tell you what happens next. When you finally stop running and face that inner emptiness, it doesn't consume you. It transforms. It becomes space. Space for clarity. Space for purpose. Space for love that's not transactional. Most men never reach that point. They drown in distractions and call it confidence. They mistake noise for aliveness. But a few, the ones who face the collapse instead of escaping it, those are the men who become unshakable. Because when you've met your own darkness and stayed, no one can manipulate you again. You stop being afraid of losing people. You stop chasing approval because you've already faced the worst, yourself, and you survived. That's when your presence changes. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak because you have something real to say. You no longer seek eyes on you. Your energy draws them naturally. You no longer beg for connection, you are connection. And that right there is the beginning of true freedom. The collapse wasn't a failure. It was an invitation to rebuild from truth, not illusion. Remember this: a man who no longer fears his own silence becomes a man the world listens to. The most magnetic men don't chase attention. They attract it without trying. Not because they're louder, not because they dominate the room, but because they've mastered something most people never will. Stillness. Stillness is misunderstood. People think it's passivity, inaction, boredom. It's not. Stillness is controlled energy, focused, awake, alive. It is the difference between a flame flickering in the wind and a fire that burns steady through the night. When you enter a space with true stillness, people feel it. They can't explain it, but they sense something solid. You're not reacting. You're not performing. You're simply there. And your calm presence becomes louder than anyone's words. But let us be honest. Staying still is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because your ego wants to move. It wants to speak, to prove, to fix, to control. It wants to fill every silence before it exposes your insecurities. That's why most men are restless. They confuse activity with power. They can't hold tension, so they escape it through noise, humor, or dominance. But the man who can hold tension without collapsing commands respect without demanding it. Here's a truth that will change the way you see yourself. The ability to stay calm under emotional pressure is the real mark of strength. When you stay grounded while others panic, your nervous system becomes the anchor for the room. And that, not aggression, not dominance, is leadership. Stillness is presence under pressure. It's your system saying, I don't need to react. I am safe here. That's the core of masculine energy and safety, not just physical safety, but emotional stability. Because everyone around you, especially women, can feel it instantly. When you're calm, they relax. When you're centered, they open up. When you're grounded, they trust you. And trust is the true currency of attraction. Think of the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is survival. Response is mastery.